Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to part 2 of today's reading of Hussein's revolution. So I'm just going to continue on where I left off before in part 1, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sentiments in the Levant were very different under Umayyad rule. One historian recounts the tale of an Arab and a mullah. So in this case, historically, the Umayyads called non-Arab Muslims mullahs, and that word, or mawali for plural, like the plural word was mawali and the singular was mullah, which in this context the word mullah means servant in this context, like mawali as plural. Okay. And it was like a derogatory term that was used by the Umayyads towards non-Arab Muslims who were seen as second-class citizens under Arab Muslims, which is not Islamic. As you all know, in real Islam, there was no distinction in terms of class between Arabs and non-Muslims. They were considered to be equal. But the Umayyads, of course, starting from Muawiyah, starting from Uthman, the third caliph, I believe. Uthman was the one who really kind of set classes based on race or ethnicity or nationality. Did I finish that sentence? An Arab and a mullah. Okay. One historian recounts the tale of an Arab and a mullah that quarreled on a public road. The mullah taunted the Arab, saying, may God ever increase your ilk, i.e. Arabs. The Arab replied, rather, may God increase your ilk. A bystander was astonished and asked the Arab, he prays against you and you pray for him? The Arab smugly replied, why not? They sweep our streets, they shine our shoes, and they sew our clothes. Under Umayyad rule, non-Arabs were disqualified from holding the position of judge. It's even relayed that Muawiyah once called his advisors, Al-Ahnaf ibn Qais and Sumara ibn Jundub, and made the following proposition. I have noticed that these redskins have increased in number. Redskins. Non-Arabs, especially Persians and Romans, were derogatorily called Hamra, meaning red or redskin. This was most likely due to their pale complexion, which grew flushed with red as compared to the darker Arab complexion. Okay. So Muawiyah continued his statement. He says, they may someday outnumber us. The redskins may someday outnumber us. I foresee that they will attack the Arabs to claim the throne. I suggest that I should kill a number of them and keep the rest to maintain our shops and build our roads. This attitude towards non-Arabs was reason for their humiliation and overtaxation. They were forced to pay jizya and kharaj. They were excluded from public distributions. Non-Arab soldiers would fight without a salary. Some would say, prayer is not invalidated except by 3, a donkey, a dog, or a mullah. That's funny. They would not be given prestigious titles like their Arab counterparts, but would rather be called either by their first name or surname. They would not walk in the same line as a non-Arab or be allowed to walk ahead of them. They would not sit to eat of the same meal. If an Arab ever ate with a non-Arab, due to that non-Arab's age, virtue, or knowledge, they would make sure that the non-Arab sits in a place so that everyone can see him and recognize that he is a foreigner. They would not let a non-Arab lead a prayer over the deceased so long as there is an Arab, even if that Arab was a deviant. If an Arab man wished to marry a non-Arab woman, he would seek the permission of the Arab patriarchs that acted as guarantors for the family. Otherwise, the marriage would be considered null. If an Arab came from the market carrying anything in his hands and saw a non-Arab walking in the street, he would instantly give the items to the non-Arab to carry instead. The non-Arab could not refuse or for fear of reprisal from the authorities. And I get non-Shia Muslims trying to tell me that Shia Islam is racist. Astaghfirullah. These inhumane and discriminatory policies toward non-Arabs caused disunity and discord within the Muslim nation. Hatred and animosity spread. Again, instability meant that the masses were too preoccupied to keep a watchful eye over their rulers. This cancer continued to gnaw at the Muslim nation until it tore it to pieces and destroyed any vestige of the unity that Islam had once created. The results were a number of bruising wars that ended all affinity and affection between the warring factions, and alternatively planted hatred and animosity. These same policies that Muawiyah and his successors employed to prop up their empire through sowing of discord and disunity were the ultimate reason for their dynasty's demise, the demise of the Umayyad dynasty. Muawiyah wished to subvert negative sentiments towards Umayyad rule by using religion as his tool. By controlling religion, he would be able to destroy any spiritual legitimacy that his enemies held. Muawiyah was crafty, and he succeeded in this endeavor. Circumstances were on his side, and his tactics gave him the best results that he could hope for. History has preserved many examples of Umayyad schemes in this field. As Ibn Abi al-Hadid al-Mutazili narrates, my teacher Abu Jafar al-Askafi mentioned that Muawiyah employed a group of companions and followers. He asked them to fabricate narrations that disparaged Ali and required that they criticize him and disclaim any affinity with him. For that, he provided them with a salary that anyone would envy. They began to fabricate whatever pleased him. Of them was Abu Huraira, Amr ibn al-As, Al-Mughira ibn Shuba, and Urwa ibn al-Zubayr. As you may know, Abu Huraira was one of the greatest narrators of hadith. And he only spent like 2 or 3 years in the company of the Prophet. He relayed the largest number of narrations known for any companion, which was over 5,000 different narrations. He is widely respected in Sunni Islam, but does not garner the same respect within Shia Muslims, because we believe that many of the hadiths that were narrated by him were fabrications. I mean, he only did spend 2 to 3 years with the Prophet, so what could he know, really? Muawiyah exploited these individuals to create a halo of religious legitimacy for Umayyad rule. And now, like, the pieces are starting to come together. I mean, Muawiyah paid these dudes to fabricate narrations that made Imam Ali and Ahlul Bayt look bad. But in doing so, he also made the Prophet look bad. Like, look at how many narrations there are in Sahih hadiths that insult the Prophet. And Sunnis love them. Like, Sunnis love these hadiths. They believe these hadiths are all Sahih. Like, and we're not allowed to criticize them, even if they make everyone look bad.